Beautiful day here when we're talking about one issue or the other, a story that has made the news and so much importance has not been given to it as it deserves. Well, my name is Daisy Leo Asikidi on the program Flip Side, and today we'll be talking about another social issue. Now, it's no news that the whole world has come together to combat a common pandemic, coronavirus, actually the COVID-19 coronavirus. But everyone seems to be focusing more on the economic impact. We're talking finance, we're talking the fact that people are home and we're not making money. What's going to happen when we come back? How are we going to deal with the debts some countries might have incurred in the process of combating this scourge? But we have forgotten that there are other areas of the whole coronavirus issues, like our education. So today we'll be talking about the effects on academic activities, COVID-19 effects on academic activities. I do have a guest in the house with me who is a former SUGPRO University of Benin. He's also aspiring to a position in NANS, that's the National Association of Nigerian Students. You've met him before, you've seen him on the show several times, you've seen him meet with some other youth, talking about youth issues, travels, education, and all sorts, even police brutality. Yeah, we had him on that talk. I'm talking about Oguche Divine. Good to have you on the show again.
Thank you so much, Daisy.
How is the campaign going?
Well,
with the lockdown?
It's been fine. So basically, we have resorted to campaigning online and also reaching out to students out there in Nigeria online, and to also know how they are faring so far during the COVID session. So far, it's been good. We thank God.
Okay, I hope you're going to win it.
Definitely by God's grace. By God's grace.
Okay, now. The outbreak of the coronavirus has led to lockdown of schools, and students and pupils have been told to stay at home. It might seem like the best solution to the problems, but countries that are already having low resistance to shock, like most African countries, countries that have high rates of dropouts already, like most African countries, countries that have the high numbers of out of school children, like Nigeria, we want it at some point. What's going to be the end result by the time this lockdown is over? Don't forget that when the schools were shut, we were close to writing examinations. Now we're talking about external examinations, and we're also talking about examinations for the third term in schools. And all of those were put on hold because of the COVID-19 crisis. So what exactly is going to be the impact of all this? So I thought it's always best to bring a student. Yes, teachers are going to have a little difficulty on their hands, but we need to talk about this from a student's perspective, how we did deal with all of this. So, Oguche Divine, you ready for me today, right?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm really ready.
Okay, so now, what are some of the impacts of this prolonged closure going to be on students and pupils?
Well, basically, it's quite unfortunate that the world is actually facing a time like this. Nobody had envisaged that there will be a time in the world where everything will be practically shut down and nothing to walk about, nothing to go to school for, and the rest of that. But well, I think the impact is basically that in a country as Nigeria, where we didn't plan for this before now, it will be very difficult for us to resuscitate and for us to come back after the pandemic. But albeit, I feel for students who are at home, who are actually doing one or two things, the best way to go about this is practically to do what they have been doing at home, to go over their books at home, and to also try and visit one or two things that they have learned from school, their class works, their book work, and the rest. But I must tell you, it is tiring because there is no instructor, there is nobody guiding them, there is nobody putting them through. So it's like the first time it is happening in history, where everybody will just be at home. So nobody has the formula to what is going to happen at home. So we are just going to be using palliative measures, to curtail it for the meantime, where students will also be advised to just follow up what they just feel it's right to do now and just go about it. But in cases where, like in Nigeria as we speak currently, we don't have advanced methods in place to actually cater for children education that is not within the four walls of the institution or the school or the building. So it will be very difficult, you understand. Preparing my mind for a topic like this, I was speaking with my friend in Sweden, and he said nothing spoiled. Education in Sweden is still going on because before now they have always done most of their classes online. They have always done classes on Skype, videos, and the rest of that. So it is quite easy for them in the advanced country to flow with the trend. There's pandemic, nobody is going to school, they are fine with it, they are used to it. So it is like what they are used to. But in Nigeria, it's like the first time for the first time for a lot of people, except our parents or our grandparents who actually were trained in African education. When now that you're at home, washing plates is a special kind of education, cooking is a kind of education, and but it is not so to a lot of children. So this is new to them. So going back to understanding how this works, and many parents are not trained actually to be teachers, to teach them in mathematics, to teach the students in physics, in French. And, so how do they go about it? So the basic thing for our students to do now in Nigeria is to, I think it's a call for African education. You have to go back to start learning those African cultures, those things that our parents can probably teach us while we still stay at home. You know, it's only those things that they can teach us now while we're at home that will be useful to us, because our parents are not our instructors. Our parents are not well grounded in physics. For some parents who are not grounded in physics, so how do you go about your physics instructions? How do you go about your mathematics instructions? How do you go about other instructions? You understand? So it is a call for a diversion of education for these children. So what I think for Nigerian students to do pretty well now is for them to go over their cultural education, learn some things about moral, learn some things about dieting, learn some things about ethics, learn some things about, you know, just do something outside the Western education. Because I believe in the course of the show, we are going to be talking about the impediments to the reasons why we can't continue learning while at home. And I believe when we talk about that, we actually see a lot of reasons and why Nigeria has been backward in the international scheme of things.
And that leads me to this particular question. When we talk about continuing education, people outside Nigeria, especially in maybe Canada, the US and China, coronavirus, COVID-19 did not really stop education. And Divine just said in Sweden, it also did not have any much impact, except maybe for the children in kindergarten, I'm sure. But even at that, it's not so difficult. It's not going to be as difficult as it is for us here. Now, in countries like Ghana and South Africa, which are countries in Africa, Rwanda, they put measures in place to assist their students, especially those in tertiary institutions. We're talking about free data to get videos online. We're talking about special classes put together to teach them online. We know that one of our external examination bodies did try to do that, and they said they were going to be teaching, having lectures on television, and people were clapping and okay, that could work. And some of them are saying, how's that even going to work? What are you people thinking? But do you think Nigeria could maybe even attempt to have continued education, at least for tertiary institution at this time?
Well, let me tell you the truth. There are a whole lot of difference between what happens on the internet or what they come to tell us on the internet and what is reality, what we are seeing every day. Now, let me tell you something. There are different aspects of education in Nigeria. There is distance learning. How many universities today have efficiently utilized the distance learning program? You are doing distance learning and you still have to go on to the school for manual clearances and the rest. You still see everything in Nigeria, it's manually done. Secondly, they said they are going to be giving tutors online on TVs and the rest, and people are clapping. Why are you clapping? How many persons have lights in their houses to watch these TVs? How many people even have money for data subscriptions on their phones? Many students are out there stranded in the country. You look at what is happening in Nigeria today, you feel so sad, but you get to wonder if this is Nigeria or somewhere else. I was privileged to be in Rwanda. I've also been in South Africa and Ghana, amongst the African country. I can tell you specifically that while I was in South Africa, you understand, for over 2 weeks, there was no power outage in South Africa. You understand? While I was in Rwanda for 3 weeks, there was no power outage in Rwanda. So you can't compare. If Rwanda is saying that they want to go online to give their students tutors online, probably there would have been free subscription for their TV stations where the students have access to these TV learnings. You understand? Because they already have measures in place to cater for the students' online learning programs. How many places, for instance, let's come back home, we are in Benin today. How many places in Benin have constant electricity? So if you want to go online, so definitely it's going to favor just a few. So if you are teaching mathematics online today, it is only those parents who can afford to buy a generator in their houses, or those parents who actually can subscribe to your TVs or any of those stations on GoTV that can actually allow their children to watch these programs online. You understand? So let's be factual with ourselves. Let's come back to reality. This is Nigeria. Forget whatever they are saying. The president is coming out that learning should take place online. Governors are coming out that how many states in Nigeria can actually provide education online? Even universities, they talk about distance learning. How many universities today can boast about distance learning being effectively carried out in their universities? I'm not taking credit or giving sides to National Open University. It still remains the only university that does distance learning. But I can tell you, those distance learning are still manualized. You still go for manual classes and the rest of that. On distance learning, I have received course online before. You don't have to meet your tutor. You meet them online on Skype videos. I am an ambassador in the African and China space, and most of our lessons are done online. We don't have to meet. I've never met my tutor before. She's in New York. One of my tutors is in China, and we attend classes online. So if this is a working structure, if they said we are going online, you know that there's already a pre-existing structure that can cater for these online activities. So whatever they are doing, there is already a made-up structure. You understand, to cater for online activities. It's just Nigeria saying, okay, fine, let us go outside and do manual classes. We are already used to manual things. So it is not difficult anymore. We have 4 walls of universities, 4 walls of... So these countries are saying what they are used to. So you don't join them because you don't even know what is happening. You are just coming to limelight. You don't even know what is happening. Billions are spent. You say you want to, okay, let's divert a little. You say there are money, there are set aside funds for families of poor homes. What are the statistics for families for poor homes? Are they the only ones are there families only in Kano? Are there families only in Katsina? Are there families only in Jigawa or Ogun? No. Poor homes are everywhere. So there are statistics you must follow. You say you want to distribute money and you are looking for power. No, they have BVN. I can tell you categorically, I have been to the United Kingdom before, and as I talk to you, one of the messages I still receive today from some of the NGOs from the UK is that if I need food, I should call so number. They will provide food in my house. They are still thinking I am in the UK. So they are also giving me and helping us. Should I be in the UK, I shouldn't be stranded at this time. How many of us can boast of numbers where government are saying, cause so numbers, we are hungry, there's an extension. What are you doing about the extension? People are hungry, people are dying, they are suffering. In fact, at this time, you will discover that very soon, Nigeria will forfeit education. You discover that education will no longer be said at this time. People will start talking about hunger, because what is killing Nigerians, what is their annoyance is that there is no food anywhere, and governments are not ready to provide food for the masses. They go online, they tell you they have distributed just yesterday the European Union donated 50 million euros to Nigeria. That's 21 billion naira to Nigerian government for the COVID-19 issues, palliatives. What are they going to use with these resources to do? You discover that federal government are actually planning to seek approval of 500 billion from the National Assembly. What are they using this money to do? They come up with stories that they have distributed 80 billion to poor homes and the rest in 2 days. And this same government will find it difficult to give us some our national cards, our national identification number we have done for over 3 years. They can't give it to us in 3 years, but they have distributed 80 billion in 2 days.
That's very
What is happening? How did you go about it? Were you guys magicians? How did you go about it to distribute this money to people? We are not condemning those who are trying their best to get things done and the rest, but they are bad eggs in the system. And we must tell you categorically that for Nigeria to function effectively, for Nigeria to function innately, this is a wake-up call. Because immediately after the pandemic, everybody is going to come to a realization. Yeah. You will come to the understanding that this country is not working. There is no health facilities anywhere. Everything is gradually deteriorating, and it's becoming so bad.
Okay, I know it's going to be a lot of coping for us, when everything is called off, when the old pandemic is being dealt with and we all have to go back to a normal life, a lot of people will not have anything called normal anymore. But then again, back to education. What would you suggest as a student for teachers, tutors, owners of schools to do before the lockdown? We're preparing for examinations. So what should be done now in terms of assessment? Because if a student has been at home for 2 months, I was a student, I'm still learning. For 2 months before my examination, obviously I've read, I've jacked. It can never be the same thing. That's a Uniben language. You don't CDB, then you've been at home for 2 months. It can never be the same when you're going to write an examination. I mean, you can't just be reading all 2 months at home. You get tired. So we're going to play and all that. So what should we do? Should we go back to writing the examinations we left behind, or should they just skip it and use some other form of assessments to promote the students, or just everybody move ahead? Just go ahead and we'll repeat.
I am a postgraduate student.
Okay.
Not just being a postgraduate student, I'm an educationist.
Cool.
And I have my registration with the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. So I'm doing my master's in sociology of education. I can tell you that the educational system can be made easy for our students at home. Now, as a way of suggesting, many of our students have WhatsApp platforms. You understand? They have WhatsApp groups. Now, what we have to do, because the pandemic is sure going to end, it's not going to last forever. We are optimistic. Now, our tutors should start looking outside the analog way of doing things. They should start looking outside the primitive way, because most of these processes are primitive. They have been our style for since 1960. We're in 2020 and 2020, and we are still using primitive measures to teach. So our teachers should look at the analog way. There are WhatsApp groups. You can give instruction through WhatsApp groups. You can give assignments through WhatsApp group. And for the students, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But they also have to understand that the pandemic is just a tentative issue. And after the pandemic, there must always be an assessment to grade their performances at home. So every serious-minded student shouldn't just give in to playing and the rest. We must concentrate also in learning and relearning. You understand? For those who are on WhatsApp groups, they must find avenues to be very educative on WhatsApp. I belong to a particular WhatsApp group, the Uniben Comwe community, where we have scholars, doctors, and the rest. And we have been learning a lot on the platform. Many things being taught. We are learning. We also have a Westerner group where instruction is ongoing. You understand? We have persons from the United States of America, from West Yamu, teaching us on the same platform. They're actually guiding us that, oh, this period will soon pass. But however, while the period is ongoing, there must be trainings, you understand, ongoing. Like I said, the African on China relationship, I am a member. The UNESCO Youth Forum, I am also a member. And lessons are going on these various platforms. So what I'm saying is that it is a call, it is a duty call on our teachers. It's a duty call on our instructors, on our principals, on our vice chancellors. You understand? For them to come on board and think about a new way of passing instructions to these students. Instructions, I mean learning processes to these students. So there must be different ways of passing instructions. The vice chancellor can come up with also ways of using digitalized learning. Teaching aids, you understand? Teaching methods must be diversified. You understand? Lessons can be like, I remember one of my lecturers then, we give us assignment through our emails. Yeah. You understand? When you get assignment through your emails, you mustn't be in the university to do this assignment. You can go online, research, and do your assignment and submit via emails. You understand? So why I'm saying this is because we must digitalize a lot of things. For us to prepare for future occurrence, this is just COVID-19. We don't know the next COVID. We don't pray anything happens, but we don't know what is coming up next. We don't know what is going to quarantine us again for another long, lengthy period of time. Like I said, this is practically the first time this is happening after the Spanish flu, which happened in 1919, a long time ago. This is the first time after a long, almost like a century, 100 years. And so we must get ourselves ready. Universities, administrators, actors, state actors, government must be ready. There must be food bank in every state. We must come on board and ensure that we start providing for the citizens. You understand? They were saying something, and sorry to divert a little. They were saying that they were soon going to stop people from working. You understand? And the rest. And I get to wonder what happens to those farmers who are also providing food. You know, if you say they should stop working stop moving, what happens to them? So definitely this COVID continues, which we pray it doesn't. What will happen to the common man? Let's not pray that people start leaving their houses and coming out and flaunting government orders because there is no food. So we must come to that point where we understand that the average man is suffering, and not just suffering academically, not suffering educationally, suffering health-wise, suffering hunger-wise. So we must talk to government. There must be a confederation of intellectuals. We must come together to align policies. You know, it is not by saying this, I will do this, I will do this. We must come together to ensure that things are done effectively for a future occurrence, not today. I was listening to one of my mentors, Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, and he said what he is doing in Rwanda today is not for Rwandans, he's doing it for Africa. There is a president that is not just thinking about Rwandese, he's thinking for Africa as a continent. All the African Union leaders must come together. There must be a reformation for us to beat this subsequent.
Somewhere at the back of my mind, I'm just thinking that Africans seem not to want to move ahead because they keep getting subventions and getting handouts from Western world and international banks. So because of that, some people just say, let's not progress. If we don't have lights, we'll keep applying for funds to get power. So why give lights? If we give lights, we will not get these monies again. So no more, I know that. But it's okay. I believe we're going to get there someday, eventually, with leaders like us who are embracing growth, trying to follow the times, the trends, okay, know what our peers and our peers are doing outside of our shores, and trying to copy them and even overtake them, even if the country might not be giving us all the support. If we grow up to become leaders someday, because you can't say leaders of tomorrow, the tomorrow never seem to come, we will do better, hopefully.
There is actually something very important. You see, when you talk about leaders, we have to understand that Nigeria alone is a conglomerate of different people. Now, let me tell you, you will be so surprised to know that we have the best brains here in Nigeria.
I won't be shocked.
The best brain. Now, you talk about leaders, different fairs who have shown efficiency in everything they do. I guess you must have heard about God Bless Otubere, who is doing for the Clap for Health Workers initiative. You must have heard about Aruna Kadri. You must have heard about Tijani. They are very good leaders. Leaders who are doing well in different fields for themselves and for the masses generally. Now, what I'm saying is that we must draw our attention to understanding that these persons are not given the opportunity to even lead at all. For instance, while we were suffering, there is one man who came up with the COVID-19 cure. Now, in Kebbi State, Ibrahim Idris Cargo, that's his name. When he came up with the issue, there was almost a chaos in the state. That, as I'm talking to you now, the issue is with the science department of the country, national science, whatever, for testing and the rest. For us to, if we have young scientists coming up with ways to curb this menace, and they are not giving them the opportunity, how do we move from here? How do we go from here? Where people who have what it takes to champion the cause of this country are not given the opportunity to lead. How do you think we can grow from here? When our parents, our younger ones, like I said, younger ones, are giving peanuts, people are sharing bread in some states in the country, bread to citizens to stay at home for 14 days. You are giving them bread for 14 days. How do we go from here? There are lots of budgeting and the rest of that. You discover that, let me even shock you. Let me tell you this today, so you know. Watch and see that after this pandemic, there will be a lot of misappropriation of funds in this country. They will tell you that they have used social billions to do this one in this country. Just watch out. This is another way for our bad leaders to actually empty the treasuries of this country. I can bet you. So how you will know is that after now, let us watch and see. When the pandemic is over, let us look out for the news. Let us look at what will be the headlines of Punch newspaper, Gambia, and other, and even our TV stations here, ITV. Let us watch what you will be saying about the country. Now, issues where we are going to, things are meant to be solved. You hear that they have used even so amount to feed poor people that did not even get to the commonest of the poor people. We will not outplay or overrule the efforts of governors like and that of Lagos State. Some of the work the governors of those states are doing, some of the work the governors of Kebbi and some other few states are doing. But it's not enough. We can do more. You understand? Nigeria is actually very large and very big. So you cannot use a little we have done to quantify for every other excesses. We must do more. We must invest in our people. Come out and empty yourself to these people. Give them everything they want. And you discover that Nigerians will stop complaining. We'll stop arguing over things that are not. Let us do more. It is in doing more that you will actually know that you love this country. Everybody that loves Nigeria must come out to do more. I am not just saying here, the African Youth Parliament as a member, we have also tried to give sanitizers and hand sanitizers and the rest to people, and we are trying our own little way. We don't have, but we are giving. We are encouraging people. We are calling students. We are giving this one, take this peanut. Take this. We must do more. It is in doing more that you know that the country can be better.
Okay, well, the issues Nigeria seem to be facing, they are endless. The point is, I know a lot of people are thinking about all the problems that the COVID-19 seem to have caused because of the lockdown and the period of isolation and all that stuff. But at this time, I think we need to start going beyond the fact that there's a problem. We also need to think about the problems that will arise after this particular problem seem to be sorted out. Like, how can we cope in school again? How do we recover the times we have lost? And also realize the fact that we're very backward when it comes to the internet. The world has gone global, and the world has gone really beyond textbooks and all this stuff. The world has moved into e-learning, soft books. Everything is soft copy now. So we want to say, okay, let's watch videos on YouTube, academic stuff on YouTube, but can you really afford all the data that's going to cost? So yes, we want food. We want a lot of beans and rice and all that stuff you're sharing. But we also want free data. Let's use this opportunity to say that now. Okay, so Divine, thank you. Success in your election after the lockdown. And we'll be here again next week to talk about another issue. It's still going to be COVID-19, I'm sure, but another aspect of it. I'm Daisy Leo Asikidi.